Hello. In this video, we'll be talking about noun appositives. It's one of the noun functions, and we'll start by defining a noun. A noun is a word, phrase, or clause that names something, whether abstract or concrete. Right here, we'll have the 10 functions of nouns. Nouns can be subjects, subject complements, direct objects, indirect objects, object of verbal phrase, object of preposition, noun appositive, which we'll focus on, attributive noun, adverb, and noun absolutes. With regard to noun appositives, and we'll look at the definition of nouns, or it could be word, phrases, or clauses. In this case, noun appositives are either words, but most often they're phrases. And so we'll look at several examples of those. So let's define appositive. So appositive is a noun or noun phrase that follows another noun and gives more information about its predecessor. So it's a noun followed by another noun. Sometimes the noun phrase can precede the noun. So we'll see an example of that. It's more common for it to follow, but you can have it before. So here's an example of noun appositives. So the Queen, my sister, has fled the country. This my sister is the appositive. So you can see the Queen is the noun. So by definition, it's a noun. It's this my sister is giving more information about this noun, my sister. So, or the Queen, sorry. So my sister is saying more about this noun. And you'll notice we have commas around that. And I'll explain the commas as we go along. In appositives, oftentimes you'll use commas to separate it from the rest of the sentence, a pair of commas. So you can see here, my sister is parenthetically, there's commas around it. So the Queen, my sister, has fled the country. So get another example. Tom, comma, a former basketball player, comma, applied for the high school coaching position. So again, we have very similar structure here. We have Tom, which is the noun. We have, this is a noun phrase, a former basketball player, a former basketball player. This is a former and basketball are all adjectives. The noun here is player. And so this is a noun phrase that's describing or modifying Tom or telling us more information about Tom, who's the preceding noun. Okay? Just so we know that the appositives do not have to be in this structure all the time, meaning you don't have, this would be the subject, appositive, and this would be verb, and then the predicate at here. That structure is always, it's more, you can have more variation than that, and we'll see it here. In this next, the third sentence, the student asked Susan, an English teacher, about the correct placement of a semicolon. So in this case, Susan is actually the object of a direct object of the word asked. We have the appositive again by the parenthetical or the parenthetical commas, an English teacher, about the correct placement of the semicolon. So again, whatever noun we want to modify or describe more with an appositive does not have to be the subject like the Queen or Tom. It can be the direct object as we have here. We have something very similar happening on the next one. The host announced J.K. Rowling, author of the Harry Potter series, winner of the award. So again, we have J.K. Rowling, the noun, and we have the appositive following after that. So author of the Harry Potter series. Again, this is a noun phrase because author is the noun, and this is describing what type of author. And this prepositional phrase is acting as an adjective on author and telling us which author. But this whole noun phrase is modifying J.K. Rowling, telling us more about her. So I think at this point we should notice that the advantage of these appositives is that we basically have put another sentence, almost an entire sentence, embedded it within a sentence, almost. In the sense, in order for us to describe this, in order for us to have both this information all together, we would have had to create another sentence. We could have said, J.K. Rowling is the author of the Harry Potter series, and the host announced that she was the winner of the award. You can see that that created two sentences, but by putting an appositive, we basically are able to get that information and make it more efficient and cleaner by putting an appositive. So this next one, we'll see that again, as long as whatever noun we want to modify, we can do it with an appositive. And the noun can be in multiple different positions. We saw here is a direct object. This J.K. Rowling actually is in a indirect object position. And this next one, we'll find out that the noun that's being modified is actually the object of a preposition. So Sarah read an excellent book by Stephen King, author of horror and supernatural novels. Here's the appositive. We don't have both commas because we have a period that ends it, but this appositive is describing Stephen King. Stephen King is the object of the preposition by. Okay? So again, I just want to point out that these appositives can be used in multiple different positions. They can be modifying or describing the subject, as we had here in Queen and Tom. They can be modifying the direct object, as in Susan in this third one. They can be modifying the indirect object, as in J.K. Rowling. And they can be modifying the object of a preposition, as in Stephen King right here, author of the horror and supernatural novels. So that's the beauty and the versatility of the appositive. Think of the appositive as a noun phrase that's right next to another noun and just tells you more about it. We'll look at a couple more examples here, and this is just other variations on how you can have the appositive. So all these were embedded within the sentence, and the noun came first, and then the appositive came second. You can also, for variety, put the appositive first, followed by the noun that it modifies or describes. So this is an example up here. The author of The Hobbit, J.R.R. Tolkien, was a veteran of World War I. And so in this case, the appositive comes before the noun that it modifies. So the author of The Hobbit is appositive, and what it modifies is J.R.R. Tolkien. So again, you can move these appositives around. The most common is to have it after, but you can have it before. This next sentence is very similar to the one about Tolkien. This is the worst nuclear accident. Chernobyl resulted in deaths of hundreds and thousands and thousands or thousands and thousands. So again, the appositive comes before Chernobyl, and then Chernobyl is the noun that we're modifying. There's also other ways we could do this. We have a college athlete, Nancy, aimed to graduate in 4 years with a degree in economics. So again, we have the appositive before, it's modifying Nancy, and then we finish the sentence out. So this appositive, just make sure if you put the appositive first that the noun that follows right after is what you want to modify or describe. What we'll also find is this, in this sense with about Usain Bolt, is that this sometimes used in the papers, sometimes writers use it just to be a little bit more efficient, if you will, or have their sentences go a little bit faster. So in this case, we're not using a comma, and it's the greatest sprinter of all time, Usain Bolt, retired from competition. So in these other ones, we have commas. Sometimes when describing people, the appositive doesn't have a comma. I would say more often than not it does, but you can use it without in this situation. Lastly, we can have actually another situation where the commas are not used. So Tom's sister, Erin, announced her wedding date. So in this case, we have to, this is because we don't have commas, we're actually restricting, what's called restricting. We're limiting who Erin is. We're saying this is Tom's sister. This means that Tom has more than one sister. And we're specifically saying Tom's sister, Erin, announced her wedding because Tom has other sisters besides Erin. Now, if we put commas around it, like in the previous sentences where we have commas on both sides, this is saying Tom has only one sister. So Tom's sister, by the way, her name's Erin, announced her wedding date. So again, this one without the commas is restricting, and say that's why we can't have commas, it's restricting. So this is a restrictive appositive. saying which of Tom's sisters announced her wedding. If Tom only has one sister, we can say Tom's sister, Erin, announced her wedding date because she only has one. This is non-restrictive, meaning this is just extra information. We know that Tom only has one sister, and by the way, her name is Erin. So that ends with appositives. Again, I want to emphasize that appositives are very powerful structures that you can use oftentimes in your writing to work more efficiently and provide more information about whatever noun you want to modify or describe more. You can add a noun phrase in parentheses or not a parentheses, depending on how, whether you want it restricted or non-restricted. And it just, again, provides more information in a very efficient and coherent manner. Thank you. Goodbye.